Hello, I'm Paul Gates. Welcome to this week's episode of The Academics. Joining me today are our regular panelists, Professor Heather Page Preston and Dr. Dave Spiceland. This week we'll be discussing international study, both with students from abroad attending Appalachian to our own very own students venturing out into the world. To introduce our first topic, Faith Hatton will tell us more about the Study Abroad program here at Appalachian.
Appalachian State prides itself on diversity, and for many students both coming from and traveling abroad, the first steps to gaining a new global perspective start right here. The Office of International Education and Development is an on-campus resource located on the third floor of the Plymouth Student Union. The office focuses on offering help for international students and faculty coming to Appalachian State and works with students to make the most of their study abroad opportunities.
So the goal of the Office of International Education and Development is to empower students, faculty, and staff to have the global transformational experience, which is one of the major strategic goals of the university. So we're an academic support services unit. What that means is we help international students as they try to come to the United States, starting from immigration to adjustment in the US, being successful in the classroom, being successful outside the classroom. And we also help our American students to get that global transformational experience by engaging in some sort of a global activity. That could be traveling abroad and studying in another country, or it could mean that they engage with our international students here on campus and the faculty.
One, we work with students who are seeking an education abroad, a study abroad opportunity. We also work to develop faculty-led programs. We also help with international student teaching and having students do international research. We work with incoming students from other countries who wish to study at App State. We bring in international scholars, so in some of your classes you may have had an international faculty member that could have been sponsored by our office.
We want to support international students who come here. We want to encourage international students who come here. We want to provide services so that they're thriving personally, professionally, academically during their time here. And we also want to really give them the chance to share their culture with not just people on campus, not just the Appalachian State community, but the broader community here in the high country here in Western North Carolina.
Here we have around 150 students from 45 different countries, and they're kind of like celebrities on campus a little bit. And there's no more than 20 students from any given country, and so it's a smaller number, but it's a very diverse international population.
We live in a world that we're all connected in some way. Everything that we do, is affecting or we're affected by, the world. And so we can't just live in this small bubble, Boone or North Carolina or the United States. So I think it's just crucial that everyone has some sort of a global experience. It doesn't have to happen by traveling internationally, although I think that's the best way. So I'm passionate about students getting some sort of a global experience while they're here on campus, and then continuing that learning when they graduate.
For more information on study abroad opportunities and our very own international student population right here on campus, you can visit the Office of International Education and Development online at international.appstate.edu. Reporting for the Academics, I'm Faith Hatton.
Thank you, Faith. Before we get really started, we ought to just run over a little bit the international experiences the three of us have had. Since we've been at Appalachian, we've been pretty active in that area, I think. Mm-hmm. Dave?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you and I went to Poland, 97, 98, 99, not 18, 97, but and I've traveled as well, and you have traveled as well. So yeah, I think we've been out there and put ourselves at risk sometimes, but a great experience.
Heather?
I've traveled as well, but I've also offered, on behalf of the department, a study abroad to London and Liverpool for 3 weeks in the summers. I did that for 3 years and studied the Beatles' effect on pop culture through mass communication. It was great fun.
Oh, it is great fun.
Yeah.
The travel that I've done in connection with the university is the 3 years in Poland that Dave mentioned. And then in the year after that, 2000, I took the study abroad trip to Poland. And then about 10 years ago, in the mid 2000s, the first decade there, I spent a year in France and teaching at a French university, which gave me plenty of time to travel as well, but also real immersion into French culture. And it was really it was a great experience. I still talk about it in class. And I think that's the point.
Yeah, it is. I incorporate all my experiences in
that's
whenever
right.
I can.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does study abroad help our students? Let's start with that.
It widens broadens their horizons and widens their minds. Let's put it that way. I'll never forget taking the first group to England. And of course it was very popular. One, the Beatles connection, but two, everyone speaks English, right? And so the students are all saying, oh, this is going to be a snap, no problem. Took them around London first day we got there after a little check-in and nap. And I said, okay, you learned how to navigate the underground system. Here are banks where you can exchange funds. Said, I will meet you at such and such a place at this time. Here's your map. And the look on their faces was priceless. It was like, oh my gosh, you're leaving us alone in a foreign country. So all of a sudden, speaking English wasn't the one criteria that made it for them, right? Because they knew they were in a different place. Yeah. Very different in terms of customs, transportation etiquette, all that good stuff. Yeah.
I remember one time I was in Edinburgh. Another teacher and I went over there, and then I took a train to Glasgow for the day. And there was this lady at church who, she said, I'm not English, I'm Welsh, and talked about Wales. And if you think that merry old England, that everybody gets along with each other, you learn about the cultural differences, you learn a lot of things that you gotta be careful so you don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, that reminds me kind of my one experience I'll never forget. I learned not to argue with gendarmes in the airport.
Yeah, that's probably not a good idea.
They were objecting to the toothpaste tube size that I was bringing, and I started for some reason to defend my idea of which one I should bring, and I noticed this gendarme getting closer, and I thought, pretty soon I'm going to be at the end of my French.
Yeah.
And he's going to be closer to me, and I better stop right here.
And when they walk up with machine guns,
well, that's right.
Same thing happened to me in Vienna, going through customs.
This gendarme was heavily armed with an automatic weapon. So it's a learning experience for everybody. I mean, it's not just students, but you know, when we're abroad, I feel like a student. I mean, I'm in somebody else's world and seeking to get something out of that.
And for me, it's brilliant because I try to fit in. So paying attention to all the customs and incorporating them into my everyday life is wonderful.
Oh, yes.
And all that history stuff you thought you would never use.
Oh, you walk in the footsteps of history. It's amazing.
Yeah, in '82, I was in the Soviet Union, when it was the Soviet Union, and I was at Goom's department store. And this guy came up. I don't know how he knew I was an American. Of course, we stand out like a sore thumb. And he said, hi. And I said, hello. And somehow he said he was from Georgia, very good English. And I said, oh, you mean like Jimmy Carter, Georgia? And he said, no. And I said, well, you ever travel to the U.S.? He said, no, that was back when you didn't do that kind of thing. So you'd learn about Stalin and all these things that really comes alive for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, we've established, I think, the value of international travel. Do we encourage that enough in the States in general, and do we do enough of that through our Office of International Education here at Appalachian?
States in general, probably not. You know, people tend to find their comfort zone and stay there. We're creatures of comfort. I think everyone should travel. It really gives you a better perspective of your place in the world, which is a very tiny one, right? It doesn't matter if you're from the U.S., that there are lots of other people. It also lets you see what you have in common with everyone else, and that's a wonderful thing. But in terms of what we do through the Office of International Education and Development, I think we do a really good job. Obviously, the programs that I've offered were run through there, but there's normally a huge selection of programs that students can choose from, both in terms of semesters abroad, but also short-term study abroads like the ones that I've led and you guys have done. Yeah.
Here's the elephant in the room. I think a lot of students say, well, I don't want to have to learn a foreign language.
There is that.
And the word foreign, by the way, is maybe something you should take out of your vocabulary. It's international.
I say another language. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you learn another language, if I ran this university, and thank the Lord I don't, I would require everybody to have 2 years of language. French, Spanish, you name it, something that would be appropriate. Even Russian or whatever. But I don't think they want to do that. But especially now with the internet, you can do things online and communicate with people online. There's a Facebook page that I'm a friend to about Western legends. And there's this guy from France who speaks or uses pretty good English, and he and I have communicated a little bit, not so much in French or whatever. He has very good English. But it's interesting how much they know about us. And of course, what a lot of people this is why I'm interested in the West and the Western, is a lot of people still think when they get off the boat or the airplane in New York, they're going to see Stagecoach and the so-called cowboys and Indians and whatever. So there's some things that we haven't communicated very well, I think.
I was thinking when you were talking, Heather, about this, that we actually rank pretty highly in for a university our size in the number of programs we offer, the percentage of the students we send abroad.
I would think
we
so.
We do pretty well on that.
I would think
think
so.
we kind of stand out in the Southeast for that kind of thing. And when you were talking about language, Dave, I agree with you completely. Of course, at my age, when I was in college, we did take languages, and I think that was exactly the right thing to do. But you do hear overall, as budgets are tight in universities, that language programs often are among the first to get pared back, along with music and art and so forth.
Yeah.
But that seems to be, in some people's view, dispensable. I mean, you can't get rid of physics, and you can't get rid of biology.
It's extraordinarily
But
short-sighted.
you shouldn't be getting rid of languages either.
Well, when I was in
Poor
K
fellows.
through 12, I had 10 years of French. I hated it. But my dad sent me to Montreal for this church campaign when I was 15-ish or whatever. And being around it, I began to think French. It was French-Canadian,
Yeah.
And I didn't come back, a glowing French speaker after 2 weeks. But when you are immersed in a culture, you begin to think that way, whether it's the language or the
You do.
culture or whatever.
Yeah, a couple stories for that. Going to Mexico, I, in high school, took French and took AP French. And I joked that, I don't remember a whole lot about it. But when I went to Mexico, I know even less Spanish. All the French came flooding back. I wanted to speak in French and not Spanish. It was really weird. And the second one was, you were talking about being immersed in a culture and how you do become part of it and think that way. I'll never forget, I went to stay with friends in England for about a month. By the end of that trip, I was dreaming. The people in my dreams, except for me, all had British accents. That was weird. That was really weird, but cool too.
But
it was neat.
that's what immersion will
Yes,
do
yeah.
to you. I don't speak Spanish at all. I mean, a few words, enough to order a meal. But once in a while I find a Spanish word popping into my head when I'm trying to speak French.
Yeah.
And I call that Spanish interference. And it throws me a little bit.
Those
And
dang Romance languages and all their
yeah.
commonalities. Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to blame it on that, but it's something in my way of thinking, I guess.
And think about what happened when the Beatles, we had our show on the Beatles, when they came over here, everybody wanted to sound British. It was cool to be gear. That was back in the early 60s, but yeah, they've influenced us, we've influenced them, et cetera, in terms of, I'm thinking Britain at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a learning process.
Yeah. To introduce our next topic, Anna Jones will be giving us a look at international students who have come to the high country.
Different cultures is the only way people learn how everyone lives all around the world. We are so lucky to have such a diverse crowd among us here in Boone, North Carolina. I got the chance to speak to two of our very own international students on their experience here coming to Appalachian State, Ibrahim Alari and Janil Tapil. Let's hear what they have to say. Today we have Ibrahim Alari here to share his experience being a minority here at Appalachian State. So when did you come to the U.S.?
I moved to the U.S. like 3 years ago. It was the fall of 2015.
So your freshman year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very cool. So where are you from?
I am from Jordan, like we're in the Middle East.
Have you faced any disadvantages or advantages being from a different country and coming here to Appalachian State?
I would say like the disadvantage, I would start with that first. Disadvantages were like finding a job, because it's been a struggle like to get a job here, because I have to get like a work visa and everything.
Very cool. What made you apply to Appalachian State over any other college here in the U.S.?
First of all, I picked the States because my dad went to Kansas State University, and he graduated from there as a mechanical engineer, and he's always wanted me to go to the States. But I ended up at Appalachian State because I love like the mountains and trees and all that, so it's pretty nice. Everyone here was welcoming.
What are your plans after graduation?
Plans after graduation? Okay, that is a tough one.
Okay.
Do
you plan to stay here?
Yeah, I'm hoping to stay in the States. That's like a dream that I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to like have the, full-on American dream after I graduate.
My name is Janelle Tapil. I'm an E&B major and I'm a senior. I'm originally from the Philippines, but I moved to the Middle East when I was really young, to the United Arab Emirates, or UAE. I went into the international office in my university and I asked about their study abroad options, and App was the only one they had in America, and I wanted to go to America, so I came to App. Sometimes I do feel left out because I'm not American, so there are some things people talk about I just don't get because I didn't grow up here. A disadvantage to being an international student or a foreign citizen is definitely job searches. Every job search asks if you're legally authorized to work in the U.S. and if you will need visa employment. And I believe as soon as you click yes on visa employment, they throw your application out because you're immediately 2 times or 3 times more expensive than hiring an American. I would recommend people from back home to come here. It's a welcoming campus.
Reporting for the Academics, my name is Annie Jones.
Thank you, Anna. Well, we've talked a lot about our experiences with international travel and so forth, and we've just seen a couple of our students, their impressions of Appalachian and the States. Of course, we have had international students pass through our classes. So how have we evaluated that in those interactions?
They do well.
Yeah, they do. The only time that it becomes a little bit of an issue is if it's a class that's heavy in writing and the student is not a native English speaker writer. But with a little work and a little adjustment to how you evaluate work, it's easy to help a student bring their game up, right, his or her game up, and also to let the student get a really good learning experience out of it. But I love having international students in class. I always say yes. When they say, do you have room? It's like, yes, I have room. I will make room. Because it's lovely having a different perspective. Right. Yeah.
And they ask different kinds of questions.
They do.
That's what I like
Yeah,
too.
they do.
And I'm particularly thinking of this Polish student who, when he was at Appalachian, had his own radio show on the campus station.
Yeah.
And he would interview people. He'd run into people around campus. He found them interesting. He would say, "Come on my radio show." And of course, I guess I was interesting to him, so he had me on his radio show too, and we had a great time.
Huh.
He was really good. I mean, he would talk about being a Polish student, a young Polish student in the United States, and particularly in a rural community in Appalachia. And he would ask very penetrating questions, and he would ask other students on the show what they thought of his perceptions. And he was really putting it all together. I mean, he had a good time. Of course, he works in radio in Poland now, which shouldn't be a surprise, I guess. But he was good.
All the Polish jokes that I grew up with in Detroit, I loved Poland, and it changed my view of the Polish people. I met some people over there that we had a religious connection, and they could answer some questions a little more honestly about. In fact, I asked the students one time, "Do you have any American jokes?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we just take the Polish jokes and reverse them, And it was just fascinating hearing them talk about. And I'll be blunt here. One student said, "I hate Germans," And well, when you understand the northern part of Poland and that Germanic area and the Blitzkrieg and World War II and all that history stuff, you can understand where they're coming from. You don't have to agree with them about things like that, but it was fascinating. I loved it. So.
It's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I love everything about having exchange students in a class and learning from them. And it helps if they have a really good sense of humor too. I'll never forget when I was an undergraduate many moons ago, I had a friend from India, and she, people would say, "Where are you from?" And she would tell them and said, "What does your family do?" And she would tell people that her father was ran a snake charming school in India. So she had a great sense of humor and loved winding people up, right? And for a second, folks would look, it's like, "Oh, I get it. Okay, you're playing with my cultural expectations." Yeah.
Well, good.
Yep.
Well, we don't have a fun fact today, but we do have a special treat that Dave is going to deliver for us.
Well, this is, I don't know how many shows we've done this semester, this year, this academic year, but we would just like to thank the people in the back. Some, they rotate the staff. So Sydney, the good work that she does, I can hear some of them cackling back there. But again, thank you very much for all you've done. We hope that it's been a good learning experience for you. Lord knows it has for me, and I think the rest of us here.
Absolutely.
So, but again, just a shout out and thank you very much for what you've done.
Yep.
It's been a real pleasure and a lot of fun.
Yep.
And your paycheck will be in the mail here soon. So.
That's our time for today. I'm Paul Gates. We hope you'll join us next semester on the Academics.